Hello, Emery's Crime here, your fellow crime, thriller and mystery book lover. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I don't know about you, but I think that life is just too short to be reading terrible books. So in 2025, I made the promise to myself to DNF books more often. DNF stands for did not finish, i.e. if I'm not enjoying a book, I'm not going to power through until the end, I'm just going to sack it off. In this video, I've got 11 books to go through with you. 9 are DNFs and 2 are soft DNFs or not right now's NRNs. These 2 NRNs are basically books which I DNF'd because they weren't right for me at the time. However, I am going to give them a second chance because I think if I was reading them in a different headspace, I may enjoy them. Obviously, it goes without saying that this is just my opinion, and please don't let me put you off reading any of these because you may love them. Anyway, I will stop waffling, let's get straight to it. I'm going to start with the 2 NRNs, and the first one is Love Mom. Everyone has been raving about this book, and I had extremely high expectations for this. However, I've mentioned on previous videos, I am suffering a little bit with baby brain, and I am struggling with concentration when it comes to reading certain books. For Love Mom, unfortunately, I just couldn't concentrate whatsoever. You know when you read a book, but you're not taking anything in whatsoever? Well, that was kind of happening. I think I read about 15%, but what happened in that 15%, I couldn't tell you. I'm still seeing great reviews for this book. People are saying it's a fantastic popcorn thriller. So this is one I definitely want to go back to, but not right now. My second soft DNF, not right now, is The Midnight King by Tariq Ashkenani. This book has the ingredients to be my perfect read. It's meant to be super dark and super disturbing. And apparently it has a fantastic twist towards the end, and you know I love a good twist. Don't get me wrong, I have been incredibly lucky when it comes to pregnancy symptoms, and I haven't been that poorly. However, I did read this, or try to read this, during my first trimester. As with Love Mom, I was struggling with concentration, and it's quite a slow burn book, and I just wasn't really vibing with the writing style. I gave this book a good shot, and I DNF'd it around the 25% mark. However, a few months after I DNF'd it, Michaela from What Michaela Reads read it, and she enjoyed it, and she said that she was surprised that it wasn't my cup of tea. And because Michaela thinks I'm going to enjoy it, I'm going to trust her judgment on it, so I've decided it's a not right now, and I'm definitely going to give it a second shot. Okay, now we're going on to the 9 books, which are definite DNFs. I'm not going to give these a second chance. First up was The Unworthy by Augustina Bazterrica. She is the author of Tender as the Flesh, which I really enjoyed. It is meant to give I Who Have Never Known Men vibes. However, I've not read that, but it is one which is on my radar. This is quite a short book, yet I just couldn't plough through to get to the end. I didn't really understand what was going on or the point of the plot. I was bored, and I just couldn't vibe with the writing style whatsoever, and I didn't care enough to read on to get to the end. I was honestly so disappointed because I had such high hopes, but hey, we can't love them all. My next DNF was Fool Me Once by Ashley Winstead, and I know what you're going to say. You're going to say, Emma, that's a romance book. What were you thinking? But here is a method to my madness. I have read all, I think it's 4 of her thriller books, and she has 2 romance books out. So I wanted to read her romance books so I can complete her backlist and do an ultimate Ashley Winstead book ranking. The main character, I can't remember her name, ends up getting a new boss who is her ex, and they didn't end on good terms, is basically the premise as far as I can remember. And oh, it just was not my cup of tea. I hated it. If you like the romance genre, then you probably will enjoy this, and I fully appreciate that this is a me problem because I just really hate romance. There's obviously exceptions to the rules, but as a whole, it's just not a genre for me. Quite often I feel with romance books that toxic people and toxic relationships are romanticised. I find the characters irritating, and I just find them predictable, and they just failed to hold my interest. And that was basically the case for this book as well. So yeah, I will not be doing an ultimate Ashley Winstead ranking because I can't face to finish that book off and read the sequel either. My next DNF is The Impossible Thing by Belinda Bauer, which is basically a thriller book about illegal bird egg trade. I've met this author both times I went to Theats and Crime Festival, and I thought that she was so lovely, and I picked this book up as an advance copy the first time I went. There was nothing wrong with it per se. It's just the kind of book which just isn't really my cup of tea. A thriller book about birds' eggs just doesn't really appeal to me. Learning about the illegal bird egg trade, don't get me wrong, was interesting to a point, but I don't think that information really went well in a thriller book, and yeah, it just failed to keep my interest. It's actually the kind of book which I think my dad will love, so I'm going to lend him my copy. My next DNF was Brother by Anya Olborn, which is a horror book which I thought I would love because it's super dark and disturbing. It's about this messed up family which live in an isolated setting in the woods, and they're responsible for a load of missing girls. I really thought I would love this, and I've heard rave reviews about it, and at the time it was on Amazon Prime Reading, and I was so excited when I found it on there and that I didn't have to spend a penny to read it. I wasn't vibing with the writing style at all. I found it very slow burn and boring. And then I got to a particular scene and it was disgusting. I don't have any triggers. Nothing triggers me. I don't tend to check trigger warnings, but this scene was revolting, and that kind of tipped me over the edge, and I was like, nope, this is not for me, and I DNF'd it. Maybe I'm being dramatic, but I actually don't think I will ever pick up a book by this author because that scene was just gross. Then we have The Tapes by Kerry Wilkinson, which I DNF'd very recently, and you might have seen it on I think it was my August reading wrap-up. A kleptomaniac woman steals a jewellery box, and she finds inside this jewellery box trinkets belonging to an active serial killer. I think the serial killer was called like the jewellery killer or something daft like that. However, instead of going to the police like a sensible, normal human being would, no. She decides to get out a tape recorder, whip out that microphone and talk about it, and talk about how she is now in danger. And shock horror, she goes missing, and 13 years later, her daughter discovers these tapes. I just thought it was stupid beyond belief, and obviously I didn't think characters behaved as they should, and I could see really clearly early on who the serial killer was. Since I posted my review about the book, I have been told who the serial killer is, and I guessed it. I saw that coming a mile off. There would have been no shock factor. I would have just been annoyed if I'd have continued on with that book. You all may know how I feel about celebrity authors, so it may come as no surprise to you that a couple of my DNFs this year have come from celebrity authors, and the first one is Deadline by Steph McGovern. The main character is live on air when somebody starts to speak to her through her earpiece thingy and tells her that they have kidnapped her child and partner. I DNF'd this book around the 25% mark because all I was getting was backstory. And yes, it's really interesting to learn about the juicy gossip goings on behind the scenes of what happens in the TV industry. However, it was too much. It was just dragging. I then looked at reviews after I DNF'd it, and quite a lot of people were slating the book, saying that what the book was about didn't match the blurb, and that is a pet peeve of mine. I feel that that blurb is basically clickbait. I DNF'd another romance book, which was The Conditions of Will by Jessa Hastings. I know, another romance book, when will I learn? But there was method behind my madness. I actually really enjoy the books I've read of the Magnolia Park series by this author. It gives toxic, trashy Gossip Girl vibes. Normally, I don't like romance books because of the toxicity. However, these characters are toxic for the fun of the story, and I just really like them. I think they're just great. And because of my baby brain, when it came to Conditions of Will, I was looking for toxic, easy, trashy, light reading. After the death of the main character's father, she ends up, whatever the main character's called, can't remember her name, she ends up going back to her family home to be reunited with her toxic family who she's not seen in years, is basically the premise. Again, this is a me problem, not a book problem, but it wasn't giving Magnolia Park's vibes. It was giving serious romance vibes. There were some serious topics in there, and it was quite heavy actually for a romance book, and it wasn't what I wanted. It wasn't what I was looking for. It just wasn't my cup of tea. It's not for me. I'm sure loads of people will love this book, but yeah, just not for me. And I'm really sad because the book that I have is stunning. We are 9 books down and 2 to go. If you've made it this far in the video, thank you ever so much. Words cannot tell you how much I appreciate it. If you're not already doing so and would like to hit that subscribe button, it would mean the world to me. Now on for the final 2 books. I DNF'd The Sleeper Lies by Andrea Mara. I love the premise of this. So basically the main character is staying at her recently deceased father's home, clearing his stuff out, when she finds footprints outside her window because it's been snowy. This is one of her older pieces of work, and again, this is an author whose backlist I want to work my way through, and it started off so creepy and so atmospheric, and I really thought I was going to love it. Unfortunately, after initially really enjoying it, it dragged. More and more elements were added to the story which were not really fitting well together. I'm sure if I'd have gotten to the end they would have fit well together, but it was just adding layers upon layers of fluff, and it was boring me, and it was actually starting to send me into a bit of a slump, so I DNF'd it. Lots of people have told me that they love it, but I think because it's one of her early pieces of work, I think it's safe to say that her writing has come on a long way since then. If you've been following me for a while, you may or may not know that I'm not Richard Osman's biggest fan, so it may come as a surprise to you that I decided to give book 5 in the Thursday Murder Club, The Impossible Fortune, a go, and I DNF'd it. The Thursday Murder Club are a wedding where a stranger approaches Elizabeth to tell her that he's in grave danger and that somebody is trying to kill him. I was incredibly lucky and I got sent an advance copy of this book, and also I do have a bit of FOMO, so I did go into this with a completely open mind, and I got to the 50% mark. I just found that there was too many characters, there was too much going on, and the characters just didn't behave as characters should, which, as you'll know from when I discussed the tapes, that is a pet peeve of mine. I also found the writing style incredibly basic, and don't get me wrong, I don't mind basically written books, like I'm a huge Frida fan, but this book was basic, yet it was failing to hold my attention. Also, this is not really the book's fault, but I don't think they read very well as standalones. I have read book 1, but I've not read books 2 to 4, and I do think that they're better read in order, so that isn't really the book's fault, but it added to my lack of enjoyment. Have you had a chance to check out my yes, no, maybe opinions on the 75 most popular thriller books according to Goodreads? If not, I'll link the video here, and I'll also link my latest book haul here as well. That concludes the 11 books which I've DNF'd in 2025 so far. Thank you ever so much for taking your time to watch this video, and as always, let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you, bye!